The mother is gone, and her newborn is crying beside a fire that is fading fast. There are no bottles, no formula, and nothing in this small camp that can safely replace her milk. So who feeds this baby before hunger becomes a life-threatening emergency before the next sunrise? For a newborn, the strongest answer was another lactating woman. Roots, meat, or water could not safely replace her. This tiny body needs liquid, energy, warmth, protection from infection, and care throughout every hour. Without human milk and constant protection, the baby's strength could disappear frighteningly fast. Across countless generations, many infants must have died when illness, injury, or maternal death suddenly interrupted feeding. Prehistory was not a world where cooperation rescued everyone. Ancient graves make that painfully clear. But some babies survived because the mother was rarely the only capable adult nearby. Human children grow inside unusually cooperative networks of fathers, grandmothers, siblings, relatives, and trusted companions. These familiar helpers could carry, comfort, guard, clean, warm, and watch an infant while others worked nearby. Most importantly, another woman, who was already producing milk, could sometimes nurse the hungry baby directly. Anthropologists have documented this practice, called allonursing, within some hunting and gathering communities. Among AKA and F communities, shared nursing appeared inside a much wider system of cooperative childcare. That evidence does not prove every ancient culture followed the same rule or welcomed every orphan. It shows that human bodies and flexible social relationships could provide one powerful emergency option when disaster struck. For the youngest newborn, another healthy lactating woman was probably the strongest available substitute. Yet she might already have a young baby whose own survival depended upon her limited milk and attention. Producing extra milk demanded more food, more water, more rest, and support from other adults. Feeding the rescued infant could reduce the time and milk available for her own child. Relatives could repay that serious cost with food, protection, childcare, shelter, and reliable future cooperation. Experienced elders and family members may have negotiated who would help and what each person know afterward. A camp that saved vulnerable children preserved future helpers, parents, knowledge, relationships, and alliances. Sometimes the emergency involved a living mother who was exhausted, ill, injured, or producing too little milk. Then the group could organize around her recovering body instead of immediately replacing her as the child's nurse. Helpers could bring water, share food, gather fuel, rebuild shelter, and guard her resting place. Someone else could hold and soothe the infant while its mother recovered, ate, or finally slept. Research among ancient highway foragers shows substantial food moving into households from adults outside each pair. That wider support transformed breastfeeding from one woman's private burden into a coordinated group survival project. But what if nobody nearby was producing milk or willing to nurse this child? Age now separated a desperate possibility from an emergency with almost no safe solution. A fragile newborn could not swallow, digest, or survive on the same emergency foods as an older infant. Raw animal milk was not a clean, simple, or nutritionally equal replacement for human milk. It could carry pathogens and required containers that left almost no trace among early foragers. Watered food added another danger whenever the water, hands, or feeding vessel carried contamination. For the youngest baby, another human nurse therefore remained the strongest plausible rescue available inside camp. After several months of growth and development, however, the camp gradually gained more practical feeding choices. Humans use complementary feeding, offering carefully prepared soft foods while breastfeeding continues during a long transition. Adults could pound edible roots, scrape soft marrow, soften meat, or prepare tiny portions of locally available foods. They could also pre-chew food before carefully passing a small, softened mouthful to the child. That solved a mechanical problem. The infant needed dense nutrition before its teeth and jaws were ready. Caregivers supplied ingredients, cutting, crushing, chewing, patience, safe storage, and repeated feeding every day. Systematic reviews find diverse foods in hunter-gatherer and fisher children's diets across many environments. Animal source foods such as meat, fish, and marrow could provide valuable concentrated energy, protein, and micronutrients. Still, the arrival of complementary food did not mean breastfeeding suddenly stopped overnight. Chemical signatures preserved in ancient teeth and bones can reveal milk entering a child's food chain. As other foods increased, that nursing signature gradually moved toward the surrounding adult baseline. In one Bronze Age Eurasian population, milk and other foods overlapped across several years. Those surviving chemical traces cannot identify the original nurse or explain why breastfeeding eventually ended. They reveal that weaning was usually a flexible process, not one sudden and dangerous deadline. Much later, farming added domestic goats, sheep, and cattle to the infant feeding equation. Archaeologists found tiny spouted vessels placed inside several prehistoric child graves in Europe. Modern chemical analysis detected dairy fats from domestic ruminant animals inside some of these remarkably small containers. Farming families were therefore using animal milk in real prehistoric feeding technology. Yet spoiled milk, contaminated vessels, and unsuitable nutrition could still turn that option deadly. Return to the first night. The crying newborn is passed toward a woman who can nurse. Others feed and protect her, rebuild the fire, guard the shelter, and assume the daily work she cannot do. The baby survives not because ancient people found a perfect replacement, but because other people willingly accepted the enormous cost.